Number 9. Raging elephants. Love them or hate them, zoos have been around for centuries, holding exotic and local animals in captivity for the enjoyment of visitors and tourists. But sometimes zoos can't control the creatures they have behind bars, and it can get pretty out of hand. Elephants are known for their wisdom, not how vicious they are. In fact, most people don't even know how dangerous the creatures can be. But apparently anywhere from 100 to 500 people die every year because of elephants. In the wild, they have raided villages and crops, stepped on top of victims, and have lethal blows. And sadly, even in captivity, they've killed. In 2016, a small child met her end thanks to an elephant at the Rabat Zoo in Morocco. The girl was only 7 years old and died after the animal threw a stone at her. After the incident, she was taken to a nearby hospital, but passed away only after a couple hours. Witnesses got the whole accident on camera, but the zoo's officials said there wasn't anything they could do. You can never really fully predict animal behavior after all. It's rare, but sometimes tragedies like these can happen. An animal expert, Phyllis Lee, who is also the scientific director of the Ambaselli Trust for Elephants, says this kind of behavior is unusual in the creatures. She goes on to say the elephant acted out probably out of boredom or frustration, and it's terrible that the little girl was the one who had to feel the effects of those emotions. The zoo hasn't commented further on whether anything will happen to the elephant or not. Personally, we don't think an animal held in captivity should be punished for something like this. Their home and natural habitat was stripped from them, and that's probably the reason the elephant felt so frustrated in the first place. Perhaps this tragedy will lead to better conditions and methods of care for creatures in zoos around the world to ensure nothing like this can happen again. Number 8. Hiding out. If you were a wanted criminal on the run, where would you think to keep your hideout? Sometimes the incidents at the zoo aren't caused by animals at all. This next listing actually happened 9 years ago when the murderer, Malcolm Naden, was on the run, being chased down by police. At the time, Naden was the UK's most wanted man. He had served nearly 21 years in prison for killing his cousin, Letitia Nolan, and was later sent to serve the remainder of his life after killing Christy Scholes, his next-door neighbor. But it's worse than that. Apparently, after killing Christy, he defiled her body, so he definitely deserved the heavy sentence. But the tales of his crimes weren't what caught the country's attention. It was his manhunt. Naden was thought to have been a master outdoorsman or bushman to some, so many thought he would hide out in the forest. You can imagine their surprise when they found out he'd been taking refuge in the Taronga Western Plains Zoo. People thought Naden had been living amongst the animals, sleeping in their habitats, stealing their food, and fighting them off. But in reality, he was just on top of the zoo's cabins for guests, sleeping in the roof cavity. Occasionally, he would steal food from the cabin's kitchens, too. Thankfully, the murderer was caught and put in prison, but that doesn't make his zoo hideout any less strange. I mean, come on, he really couldn't think of anywhere better to hide? Number 7. The beauty of nature. Sometimes it seems people will get mad about anything and everything, even if it's something natural that no human can control. Still, people will find a reason to complain, and this time, it was at a zoo. 2 donkeys named Napoleon and Antosia, in a committed 10-year-long relationship, caught some flack for mating in their enclosure. Multiple mothers of children at the animal park filed complaints about their children witnessing the act. It got to be so much of a, quote, problem that the zoo's director decided to separate the lovers into separate cages. Thankfully, the two were soon reunited, but even with the short pause in their relationship, internet users were furious with the zoo's handling of the situation. Over 7,000 people even signed a petition to reunite the star-crossed lovers. The donkeys even had fan pages popping up for them on Facebook, too. Some experts on animal well-being even weighed in on the incident. Apparently, separating the donkeys could have had long-term effects on the creature's mental health. Imagine if you were living peacefully with your romantic partner when suddenly strangers of a different species took you from one another, putting you both in your own little world. That's probably how Napoleon and Antosia felt. But thanks to help from those online, the 2 donkeys are allowed to happily be together again. And they've reportedly had 6 cute little donkey babies over the course of their relationship. Number 6. Monkey around. If you've seen the movie Night at the Museum, then you might remember a little devious monkey named Dexter. In the film, Dexter torments the night security guard, played by Ben Stiller, stealing his keys and even peeing on him at one point. But by the end, despite all the tricks he pulled, the monkey eventually became friends with Ben. Dexter was a mischievous species of monkey known as a rhesus, and their entertaining antics have been going on for a long time. Back in 1935, a historic moment occurred for Frank Buck's Jungle Camp Animal Park on Long Island in New York. The zoo was home to hundreds of monkeys and other animals, and on one fateful day, there was a great escape. Exactly 172 rhesus monkeys, led by their leader named Capone, left their enclosures, ventured out into the park, and made their way into the nearby woods. And as you can imagine, it was complete chaos. Apparently, one of the monkeys found their way to the railroad tracks and managed to chase several of the train's workers, which delayed the train for over 5 minutes. The zoo offered out monetary rewards and visitor passes to anyone who could catch one of the notorious furballs. Thankfully, the monkeys are small and fairly harmless, so no one was hurt. But just imagine waking up one morning to find a monkey in your bed. Would you ever have a pet monkey? Do you know anyone that does? Let us know in the comments down below, and if you're liking this video, be sure to hit the thumbs up and subscribe buttons if you haven't already. Number 5. Escape artists. Monkeys come in all shapes and sizes, from the mischievous rhesus to the wise-looking orangutan. But no matter how tiny or massive they are, these personality-filled creatures seem to always find time to monkey around. In 1985, yet another great ape escape took place. This time, the perpetrator was a 250-pound, or about 113-kilogram orangutan. His name was Ken Allen, and in his first joyride out of captivity, yes, first, he climbed over his wall at the San Diego Zoo. From there, he walked down the park path towards a large group of tourists, as if he was one of them, just admiring the other animals on his way. You might think the zoo got a lot of flack for the incident, but actually the opposite happened. People loved Ken Allen, and he became a local zoo favorite. But after the first time, the zoo increased security measures around his pen. They raised the height of Ken's retaining wall by 4 feet, or just over a meter, and they put a moat behind it for extra measure, thinking Ken surely couldn't get out again, right? Wrong. Once again, he hopped the fence. This time, zoo workers found him inside the enclosure of a fellow ape named Otis. Otis and Ken had a bit of a history. The two once shared an enclosure with each other and didn't get along that well. When the zookeepers found him, Ken was throwing rocks at his not-so-great pal Otis. After once again being put in his cage, Ken must have thought, third time's the charm. Apparently, a worker had accidentally left a crowbar in his pen, so Ken used it to his advantage, giving it to his accomplice Vicky, another monkey in his pen, and Vicky managed to open one of the enclosure's windows with the crowbar, leaving Ken room to get out again. With all the chaos he caused, the zoo decided to move him to an indoor pen non-permanently, while once again ramping up their security measures. Some human escape artists could learn a thing or two from the great Ken Allen. Number 4. Twitter famous. Everyone loves seeing cute pictures of animals on the internet. People literally lose their minds over them. If there's a rabid dog growling or foaming at the mouth, there's always going to be some chick that says, "Aw, puppy." So it's not all that surprising when a snake became a viral Twitter sensation. The West African banded cobra broke free from its habitat in Grand Prairie and has yet to be found. This dangerous reptile has enough venom to kill you with one bite, and in the wake of the frantic search for it, a Twitter account, a TikTok page, and a Facebook profile popped up. The animal has over 5,000 followers on a single account. Some of the escapee's tweets include a picture of it with a mustache, goatee, and a hat, photoshopped onto its face with the caption reading, "Feeling cute. I don't know, might delete later." The cobra even claims to be a fan of the Dallas Cowboys and has shown support for the Olympic Games. It's most likely all just a joke from someone online, but on the slight chance the snake is actually running the show behind the scenes, we'll be leaving a follow. Number 3. Weed. In recent years, marijuana has been legalized in multiple U.S. states, but recreational use of the drugs has gone on much longer than its legality would dictate. People use the herb for medicinal purposes and in some other not-so-family-friendly ways all around the world. However, the last place you'd expect to see old Mary Jane is at the zoo. One worker decided to take advantage of this fact. The 59-year-old man used an old rhino enclosure for his own personal cannabis farm. It all took place at the Salzburg Zoo in Austria. The crazy thing is, no one knew about the farm for years, because who would think to check a rhino habitat? The only reason police found out about the operation is because a disgruntled customer of the worker ratted him out to the authorities. In the raid on the farm, the Austrian cops found over 30 marijuana plants, and thankfully no animals under the influence. The Salzburg Zoo was shocked at the news. They were furious the man had been operating such a distasteful business under their noses for so long, and they weren't all too thrilled with the media coverage tarnishing the zoo's PG rating either. Number 2. Ending it all. Tigers recently had a surge in their popularity thanks to the Netflix show Tiger King, following the weird character that is Joe Exotic. But the striped creatures have plenty of claim to fame on their own without the help of a middle-aged crazy man with mullets. In fact, the animals even have been worshipped in some cultures as powerful, strong entities. Which is why many hate the fact that they are locked away in cages at zoos around the world, including one Chinese man named Yang Yinhai. Yinhai was not only upset with the treatment of tigers, but he wasn't happy with his life in general. He suffered from debilitating mental illness, depression, and it was bad enough that he wanted to take his own life. And his chosen method? Sacrificing himself to his favorite animals. As a shock to other visitors, he jumped into the tiger enclosure at its closest zoo in China. Lucky for everyone, the tigers weren't ferociously hungry and didn't tear him apart like he might have expected. The opposite actually happened. The beasts were initially frightened by the sudden intruder in their space, with one of them actually running away. But after the man egged them on by making faces at them, the male tiger in the exhibit attacked. Luckily, Yinhai was safely pulled out of the pen with only a few scratches after barely being bitten once. Since then, Yinhai was sent to live at a home to be treated for his psychiatric problems. Number 1. Praise the Lord. Yet another man tried to tempt fate at a Taipei zoo in 2004 by jumping into the exhibit of a big cat. But his goal wasn't as sad as Yinhai's. No, he didn't want to take his life. He wanted to save the souls of the lions he was facing. How did he expect to do that, you ask? Well, he wanted to convert them to Christianity. He probably didn't realize that animals aren't religious. As the 46-year-old man literally hopped into the lion's den, witnesses say he shouted, "Jesus will save you!" But who was going to save him? He not only claimed a godly being would save the cats, but he also taunted them, telling them to bite him with his arms raised up into the air. One of the male lions in the pen heard him loud and clear, so the beast took a big bite right out of the man's leg. Thankfully, the employees at the zoo were able to rescue the man before he fell victim to his own stupidity. They shot at the lion with a tranquilizer gun and led it away from the unwanted intruder with water hoses. Who knows what this guy was thinking? He was obviously high on Jesus, and maybe something else. Thanks for watching. What's your favorite zoo animal? Do you have any funny stories from the zoo? Tell us down below in those comments. We want to hear all about all your experiences. And make sure you leave a like and hit that subscribe button for more content like this. See you next time on the Bored Badger.